and welcome to MashTalk, the show where we catch up with the most interesting people in tech. I'm Mashable Tech editor Pete Paschal. So it's been 10 years since Indiegogo launched, changed crowdfunding forever. I am super excited to introduce our guest. Welcome to the show, David Mandelbrot, CEO of Indiegogo. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Pete. Thanks a lot for having me.
Cool. Can I call you Dave?
Yeah, Dave is great.
Dave all right?
Yeah, Dave is super.
Nice. So you're the man in charge of the whole operation there. How did you get there? Tell me a little bit about yourself. Where did you start getting involved in crowdfunding, and then how did that sort of transition to Indiegogo and then the CEO gig?
Yeah, it's actually a nice story. So earlier in my career, I spent about 7 years at Yahoo, starting in the late 1990s. So I've been working in online tech for over 20 years now. But the way I got involved in Indiegogo was I was at a startup before Indiegogo called Tint, and we had a board member who was also on the board of Indiegogo. And he was based here in New York. We were based in San Francisco. Indiegogo was based in San Francisco. And every time he would come to one of our board meetings, his name was Louis, I would say, "Hey, Louis, what else are you doing while you're here in San Francisco?" And every time he would say, "Oh, I just had a meeting over at Indiegogo. That is the most amazing business. So exciting what they're doing, the way they're empowering entrepreneurs." And
so he was inspiring you.
Every time.
He was like, "Damn, I
every
gotta get
time
on
he
board
would
on
come,
this."
he'd be like, "All right, let's talk about Tint, but let me really tell you about what's going on at Indiegogo." And so in the end, Indiegogo got acquired, and then Tint got acquired, and then Louis introduced me to the founder of Indiegogo. And things just progressed very rapidly.
Well, one of the founders, wasn't it like three people? I forget.
Yeah, there's three co-founders of Indiegogo. One is named Slava Rubin. He was at the time the CEO of Indiegogo. We also had two other co-founders, Danae Ringelman and Eric Schell. Danae and Eric were both business students at the Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley when they had the original idea for Indiegogo.
Are any of them still involved? Or
Yes, actually, both Slava and Danae are both still very active members of the board, and Eric Schell is our head of product at Indiegogo, overseeing all of our product development.
So how did you get convinced? You keep hearing about what a great place this is, and they're just changing the world or whatever. And what was it that sort of persuaded you that this is the place you want to just okay, I'm going to put a stake in the ground here?
Yeah, it's interesting. For me, it's always been about working with businesses that are doing something that's transformative. So when I went to Yahoo in the late 1990s, I was actually really excited about how the internet was going to change the way we consumed our media.
That was the place to be in the late 90s.
It really was.
Maybe not a few years later. But
it's sort of sad. I know. I wonder if at some point people will remember, that there was a time when Yahoo was sort of at the center of so much of what was happening.
Oh, that's where you went.
It really was.
I remember I first got in online in 94, 95 and stuff, and you wanted to go to that Yahoo homepage with all the sort of categories and stuff. That's how people kind of surfed the web back then.
Right. That was the way you found the best places to go. And it was also, I'll say it was actually a really interesting time, because it was the place to be. It attracted an interesting and diverse group of people. It was actually, in that period, it was an incredibly exciting place to be. And, so many people that I worked with at that time at Yahoo are now doing, such interesting things, now. Jeff Weiner, who's the CEO of LinkedIn, was somebody I worked very closely with at Yahoo. Rob Solomon, who's the CEO of GoFundMe, was somebody I worked very closely with at Yahoo. The Yahoo people have gone on to do really interesting things.
So, but it sounds like you were like, you got that taste of want to be around innovation and things changing at that time.
Absolutely. I think that industries are most interesting at the moment when they're going through real transformation. And what was so interesting to me about Indiegogo that I could see from the very beginning was the potential that Indiegogo had to really change the way entrepreneurs launch their businesses. The typical way that entrepreneurs always launch their businesses, and I'm going to overly simplify because of course each entrepreneur's journey is different. But the typical way that entrepreneurs used to launch their businesses is they would get an idea, maybe they would start working on it a little bit, and then they would go out and raise financing. And then they would, develop the product, and then they would hopefully get a distributor and get that product into retail stores. And then at the very end of this, long process that could last years, that product would show up, in a store, and only at the very end of that process would you find out if there was an actual market for that product, if there were going to be customers.
Right.
What was so interesting about Indiegogo was the way it was radically transforming that model, the way an entrepreneur could determine extremely early in the life cycle of their product or their business whether there was going to be a market for that product. And I could see early on what we've now come to see, over the last 10 years, which is that it would have a really transformational impact on the way entrepreneurs brought their products to market.
Yeah, definitely. There's been a lot of products that have been funded through crowdfunding and then, become these massive success stories, not just on the platform, but they go on to get venture capital and maybe even get acquired or their own companies. We've seen that time and again. Not every, I don't want to make it an unreal,
Right.
not every single thing is that's the story for everything, but it's definitely very possible. And I guess if you're a VC or a bigger company, you can sort of have that confidence when you're thinking about what's the next thing. And when you look at these projects and oh, okay, so this thing made whatever, 400% above its goal. That's a good sign.
Absolutely. What's interesting is almost every party that's sort of part of the entrepreneur's journey, every third party that the entrepreneur is engaging with, whether it's an investor, a distributor of that product, if they're a product entrepreneur, the retailer, they're all basically making a bet, essentially, on whether there's going to be a market for that product in the end. The VC is anticipating there'll be a big market for this device, and the distributor is thinking a lot of retailers will be interested in this device. The reason that crowdfunding and Indiegogo in particular is so transformative is it makes that part of the analysis so much easier. So what's exciting about Indiegogo is in part that so many entrepreneurs on Indiegogo have been able to go on and raise venture capital financing. The entrepreneurs on Indiegogo have raised over $1 billion in venture capital financing after their Indiegogo campaigns.
Nice.
But what's also exciting is the way the entrepreneurs have a much easier time getting their products into Target stores, into Amazon, into Brookstone, into many retailers that otherwise might have had more questions about those products. They can look at the success on Indiegogo, say, I can see that there's a market for that product. I want to carry it in my store.
Nice. It's definitely, from everything you've said, it's very clear how crowdfunding changed a lot in the entrepreneur process, particularly with products. But how do you think crowdfunding itself has changed since it sort of started getting very popular about 10 years ago? I know at the beginning there was no equity type of crowdfunding. Usually it still is usually very perk based. It's like the what I like to the PBS or NPR model where you get this level and you get the bag, and at this level you get the thing and whatever. But now I know recently, I think it was a couple years ago, that the certain laws changed, or securities laws, and you can do equity crowdfunding
Yeah,
now.
actually.
So that seems to be a big change in what's happened. But how else has crowdfunding evolved? And what are the main ways crowdfunding has evolved over the past 10 years?
Yeah, it's a really good question. There's a few ways it's evolved. For one thing, the landscape has changed a lot over the last 10 years. So when Indiegogo launched a little bit over 10 years ago, Indiegogo was actually the first crowdfunding platform. There was no Kickstarter then. There was no GoFundMe then. No, if you count Patreon, there was no Patreon at that time. Indiegogo was the pioneer of crowdfunding. And over time, other companies started to focus on crowdfunding. Kickstarter jumped in, I think, about a year later. GoFundMe a few years after that. The main evolution in the landscape has been that as crowdfunding has evolved, different companies have developed their own individual areas of focus. So, for example, GoFundMe now is exclusively focused on personal causes, right, and nonprofit fundraising. And in fact, Indiegogo earlier this year, we actually sold off the portion of our business that was focused on nonprofit and personal cause fundraising to a company called You Caring that was subsequently acquired by GoFundMe. So that's part of GoFundMe's business now. Kickstarter has really maintained a focus on what they call creators. So those are filmmakers, musicians. The fastest growing category actually on Kickstarter over the last few years has been tabletop game developers.
Oh, really?
As tabletop games
Like
have
these kind of like
become-
handheld things?
No,
or?
not handheld things. I'm like actual tabletop games,
Oh,
like
you mean
Monopoly.
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
Wow.
And Indiegogo, in particular, over the last 3 years, has really developed a focus on product entrepreneurs and helping those product entrepreneurs identify if there's a market for their product and really take their idea all the way from an idea, from an idea in their head all the way to a manufactured product that's getting into the hands of their backers.
Nice. So you mentioned Kickstarter, and I feel like you guys were first, and then they came in, and then they kind of swooped up all the attention and the glory in a lot of ways. Like why did that happen? Is that just my perception? But I did look at some stats before this, and it seems like collectively they've raised like more money. I think it was like something like 2.8 billion to I think Indiegogo is about $1 billion.
Yeah, we've actually raised now over $1.6 billion in our history.
So why was there this perception for a long time that Kickstarter was the place to be?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Things changed a lot around 2000. I believe it was 2011 or 2012 was when the Kickstarter name really, people really started to notice Kickstarter. And the main thing that transformed things was that Kickstarter had a single campaign on Kickstarter that was very successful, which was a campaign for this product called the Pebble Watch.
Oh, yeah.
You might remember that. And at that time, at that point, that became the most successful crowdfunding campaign of all time. As of 2011 or 2012, it raised over $10 million. And so what happened was Kickstarter sort of opened up people's eyes to the potential of crowdfunding. And for a while, their name was somewhat synonymous with crowdfunding.
So did they just get lucky then? That basically they got that one super success story because I think there's in addition to the perception of Kickstarter sort of being like the sort of bigger brother here, that there was a perception that like, oh, Kickstarter had like the standards are different, so that there's a certain bar that sort of needed to be met there that maybe didn't exist on Indiegogo, and maybe the perception like, oh, like it's Indiegogo, like anything goes there. Is that wrong? Is there a like, or is that actually a strength perhaps of like Indiegogo that it's like, look, maybe your dreams are a little more, I don't know, further harder to see, but that you're welcome here still. I mean, what is the correct way to interpret this? Yeah,
it's a really good question. Yes, for a long time, and even now in some ways, Kickstarter has had and continues to have a very different approach to how they accept entrepreneurs onto the platform. Indiegogo has not only tried to be as open as possible a platform, but also a very flexible platform. So on Kickstarter, there's basically one way to offer a crowdfunding campaign. You need to provide your product to Kickstarter. Kickstarter actually evaluates who can be on their platform and who can't be on their platform. To Indiegogo, we take a different approach, in part because when the company was founded, the goal was to essentially eliminate the gatekeepers.
Right.
So rather than, our idea was why should the VCs be the only people to determine what products get funded and what products don't? And it's our feeling that if we evaluated each product for whether it was acceptable or not to our platform, we would just be inserting ourselves as the gatekeeper.
Right.
And with Kickstarter doing that, in our mind, they're inserting themselves as the gatekeeper rather than letting the public essentially decide what products get funded. So Indiegogo has always been an open platform where any entrepreneur can actually run a campaign on Indiegogo. What we have changed in the last couple years, though, to make things much, to make the opportunities much more clear to backers, is that we now require entrepreneurs to be very direct about which stage they're in development. So if you just have a concept, but you haven't actually developed a working prototype of your product yet, you need to disclose that to backers on Indiegogo. If you have a prototype, we actually verify that you have a working prototype. If you say that you're in production, we actually ask for a production version of the product so that we can validate it. So we're actually a more open platform, but also with a set of rules to make sure that backers that back campaigns know what they're in for.
So yeah, there's more nuance to it, I guess, but it's more democratic in that simple way. I liked what you said about like, oh, if we simply whitelisted every single thing, then we're throwing our own biases in there, and why not just let the people decide?
Absolutely. And what's wonderful about Indiegogo is that because we have this different set of rules, it enables products that might not have gotten the opportunity to launch on other platforms or to be successful on other platforms to be successful. Like, one example that comes to mind was a campaign that ran, I believe, about 3 years ago on Indiegogo, was for a product called the Flow Hive. And the Flow Hive was a new type of beehive, actually. And apparently there had been no real innovations in beekeeping or beehive development in the last 50 years.
Whoa. Don't tell Apple.
And a father and son team from Australia came up with an idea for a better beehive. They put it on Indiegogo. They needed $50,000 to be able to manufacture the first, to be able to set up a manufacturing facility in Australia to be able to manufacture the first beehives. Now, at that point, when they hadn't quite, gotten to real manufacturing of the product yet, they might have had a hard time, being able to launch on Kickstarter. They launched on Indiegogo. They raised, within 2 months, they raised $13 million to make beehives from an emerging beekeeping community all over the world. And, at Indiegogo, we've got thousands of stories like that of entrepreneurs who you might never have thought would have been successful, but the public actually got this democratic opportunity to identify what they were really interested in and directly communicate that to entrepreneurs.
13 million. Wow, that's a market I didn't know was there. Like that's got to be an impressive size for beekeeping. So Dave, I got to ask you, how do you guys make money?
I'm glad you're asking. We actually just announced this morning, we just had our first profitable quarter in Q3.
Nice.
Indiegogo makes money in a few different ways. The first thing and the primary way that we make money is that we get fees that are a percentage of the amount of funds raised on our platform. So our standard fee is a 5% fee, and so 5% of whatever the entrepreneur is able to raise on Indiegogo goes to Indiegogo. The entrepreneurs on Indiegogo and we really like that fee structure because it means that we have a shared interest in the success of those entrepreneurs on Indiegogo. If they're not successful on our platform, then they don't need to pay us. And if they're extraordinarily successful on our platform, then they pay us more. So that's the primary. That's our primary revenue
So if
stream.
it's 5% and you've raised over the years 1.6 billion, what is that? 800 million? Or no way, 80 million.
That's 80 million, but that's just the primary way. In addition, we've as more entrepreneurs are using Indiegogo as a platform to go direct to consumers, which is really the big movement that Indiegogo is a part of. Now entrepreneurs are bypassing traditional retail, traditional distribution mechanism, and they're selling their products directly to consumers online. And as we do that, there are more and more services that those entrepreneurs need. If they're marketing their product on Indiegogo, they often need help with marketing. critical to a successful campaign on Indiegogo is having a really good video that demonstrates the benefits of that product. Indiegogo now offers solutions to entrepreneurs to develop a really good video. And
is that like you have an in-house staff of editors,
yes,
shooters?
It's a combination of both expertise in the house and outside video.
Tara's ears there are perking up.
It's actually, it's really an exciting time. It used to be that if you were a product entrepreneur and you wanted to raise interest in your product, say 15, 20 years ago, the only way to do it was with brand marketing and with creating, and by creating a television commercial.
Right.
Most of the entrepreneurs on Indiegogo now are able to produce a video for somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000, or in a lot of cases less. The most successful campaigns, those videos are watched by millions of people.
Oh, they're just fun to watch. I feel like the crowdfunding formula is like this. It's almost like the reality show thing plus cool gadgets. I mean, it's like this sort of addictive format. You could watch them one after another for hours.
They really are fun to watch. And they're fun to watch because it's fun to see the most innovative products that are coming to life. It's also really exciting to see the entrepreneurs behind those products.
Totally.
When we're marketed to, during the Super Bowl, there's paid models and actors that are demonstrating that product. There's something actually really rewarding about getting to see an entrepreneur actually explain this product that they have dreamed of and how they are trying to bring that product to life. Part of why Flowhive was so successful is that the backers on Indiegogo just fell in love with the founder and wanted him, the founder and his dad to be successful with this campaign. Earlier this year, we had the most successful campaign on Indiegogo on any platform over the last 2 years for an electric bicycle called Mate X. And the founder of that company is a female entrepreneur. She's a mom with 3 kids, and backers get excited about supporting an entrepreneur like that. So yes, there's something about the videos that's just fun to watch, in part because it creates a better connection between the backers of those products and the entrepreneurs that are building those products and providing them to users.
Well, congrats on your first profitable quarter, by the way.
Thank you.
So I understand as going forward, first of all, Indiegogo, international, a lot of countries. How many countries now?
About 230 countries. People back projects and offer products from over 230 countries. And I'll actually tell you, one of the most exciting things about Indiegogo is that 48%, last quarter, 48% of all of the transactions on Indiegogo were cross-border.
Oh, wow.
So what we've created is a true worldwide marketplace for entrepreneurs to be able to reach new customers by going direct to consumer.
Why have you had so much success in terms of being international so quickly? I think you've been in a lot of countries for a while now, but it feels like that's sort of a weird, tough nut to crack for a lot of services and stuff. But do you use like a middleman? Is there a secret to doing that? I mean,
It's a really good question. You asked earlier about how the crowdfunding industry has changed over the last 10 years. As we at Indiegogo got really focused on product entrepreneurs, people that were creating new products and wanted to learn if there was a market for those products and go direct to consumers with those products. Our worldwide strategy became much more clear. So the most clear example is China, actually. Needless to say, not only is a lot of product manufacturing happening in China, but now there's been manufacturing in China for decades. There's a lot of great product innovations that are coming out of China.
I'll bet. I bet you could go down to the Shenzhen market, grab all the components you need, and just, if you're an inventor, bam, see if something works, and then all you need is Indiegogo to help you out.
It's absolutely true. And the other interesting, so what we did, so part of why it's worldwide is that Indiegogo really invested in making Indiegogo a worldwide platform. In the beginning, when I first joined Indiegogo a little over 5 years, we used 4 different payment processors, in part to ensure that we could support transaction processing in those 230 countries. We've since been able to streamline it somewhat, but we've had a real commitment to being a worldwide platform from the beginning. And then in markets like in China, where there's a strong base of entrepreneurs, we've actually hired people that are dedicated to that Chinese market. And so we actually, you mentioned Shenzhen, we have dedicated people working for Indiegogo. There's a little bit of a complicated legal structure to be able to do this in China, but that are based in Shenzhen to create a streamlined way for China-based entrepreneurs to be able to reach a U.S. market with their products.
Yeah, it's huge. I think that could open up a lot of stuff for you guys. But the thing is, we've seen sort of this before a little bit, not exactly this, but I know Amazon has done a lot in the last couple of years to sort of open up its marketplace to international sellers, a lot of them out of Asia, and they've received a lot of backlash for it because some of these are knockoffs of American or just other products, and they're either not as good, or even if they are as good, they're really undercutting the innovation happening here because of the rapid commoditization, I guess, of some of this stuff. Do you see like a similar backlash possibly on your side, and are you doing anything to guard against that?
Yeah, that's a great question, also, Pete. We did see that. One of the things that's still so exciting about working, with a relatively early stage company is that we can be really flexible. So we did see that. We started to see a lot of knockoffs on Indiegogo. We also started seeing a lot of distributors or resellers that were using Indiegogo as a way to just distribute products.
I feel like this is your fake news problem. You know what I mean? Like you gotta it's nice to be democratic and be hands off, but at the same time, you have to take some kind of active role in ensuring some quality control.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in being, yes, we're democratic, but part of being democratic is also being hands-on to ensure that we don't have fake news. So it's the policy on Indiegogo that you need to be the original entrepreneur of the product. And we have a dedicated trust and safety team that reviews the successful projects on Indiegogo and ensures that that it is the actual entrepreneur that is running that campaign. We don't allow distributors or resellers on Indiegogo. And of course, if we get notice of a copyright violation or a patent infringement, we're fully compliant with the DMCA rules, and in a lot of cases, we'll take campaigns down if there's any type of IP infringement happening on our platform. So we did start to see that. We responded very quickly, and there shouldn't be any products on Indiegogo that are not products that are being offered by the original entrepreneur behind that project.
So this may be old news, but I do remember there was a big story about, it's probably like 5 years ago now, but it was I remember the Kickstarter guys came out and basically wrote a blog that got went pretty viral. This isn't a store.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of was I think they were getting a lot of bad press for various things, not really living up to snuff at the time. But I feel like, obviously it is a store in your case, in some ways, with the marketplace and direct to consumer. Was that kind of an overreaction, do you think? Has it gone into more of a this is a store with caveats, or how should people look at these today in 2018? I'm going to a crowdfunding thing, and what is my expectation, or do I just have to be really so sophisticated about it?
Yeah, that's also a really good question. So it's interesting. We've done plenty of research with the backers of projects on Indiegogo, and while people have many reasons for backing a campaign, maybe they know the entrepreneur, maybe they want to make sure that product gets built. What we learned from engaging directly with our backers is that the primary reason that backers back campaigns is because they want to get the product. That's why they're doing it. So when you're in a situation like Kickstarter had a few years ago where they had this project called The Coolest Cooler. It raises
infamous.
Yeah, it raised $13 million, and even with the $13 million was not able to deliver that product to the backers. That's a bad experience for users. frankly, Kickstarter can say, we're not a store, but when people spend $13 million on a product that they don't get, they are going to be very unhappy, regardless of what you say. So what Indiegogo, recognizing that this is a risk with entrepreneurs, we started working closely with companies that could help the entrepreneurs, the most successful entrepreneurs on Indiegogo, manufacture and ship those products. So, a lot of entrepreneurs run into trouble because, and I think this was the case for Coolest Cooler, because they haven't really thought through all of the components that they need for that product or how much manufacturing is going to cost. So, on components, Indiegogo has formed a partnership with Arrow Electronics, one of the largest component distributors in this country. Arrow, for free, will actually review your bill of materials if you're an entrepreneur on Indiegogo and make sure that you've thought through every single component that you need to manufacture that product. They will make sure that those components are not close to the end of life, requiring you to re-engineer the product. We formed a partnership, if you're a successful entrepreneur on Indiegogo and say you sell 10,000 of your product, or you get 10,000 backers for your project, you've got to figure out how to ship to 10,000 backers. So we formed a partnership with Ingram Micro to make sure that that entrepreneurs have a solution for doing the logistics of literally shipping 10,000 products.
It's a lot of stamps.
It is a lot of stamps, and as a result, now backers are much more likely to get their product than ever before, because we know that for backers to be truly thrilled with the experience that they have on Indiegogo, they need to get their products regardless of what we say. It's whether they receive the products that'll make them most happy. And I'll add on that, in our marketplace, we do guarantee fulfillment of the product, and of course, the customer satisfaction level is much higher in our marketplace than it is for overall crowdfunding.
Because that's stuff that's already sort of been created and gone through these difficult humps, I guess. Exactly.
It's those for now. Those are projects that are further along, and where we can have much higher confidence that the backer will ultimately get the product.
So one of the things that I think has changed a lot in crowdfunding, it's not that new anymore, but is the idea like established companies coming in and like, this is actually a great place to sort of try out new and sort of be part of their development process. I'm thinking specifically, the most recent thing I can think of is Bose with their Sleep Buds, which had a campaign, I think it was earlier this year or late last year.
Late last year.
And because I went to their launch event, I think it was in the summer or the spring, and they told me all about the Indiegogo experience, and it was really interesting because it was always a very different product for them. They're usually speakers and headphones and stuff, and this is like a sleep masking thing, and it was a different experience, and like they were like, well, we could develop this on our own and just put it out there and hope for the best, but this was, given the nature of the product, which wasn't a giant thing, it was a very personal product too. It's like they concluded we should do crowdfunding, and they partnered with you guys.
Yes.
And I tried it out. It's a nice product, but like that whole idea seems to have really caught on. And has it exploded lately, or has it held steady?
Yeah. Within Indiegogo, we refer to this as our enterprise business, but we're really talking about really well-established companies that are using Indiegogo as a platform for product validation. My favorite example, most recently, just last quarter, was Gillette. So Gillette is as I'm sure most people know, Gillette, of course, is in a competitive business, in the razor business, in particular with some recent direct-to-consumer brands that have come along. And what Gillette, and Gillette is, of course, always innovating with razors, and Gillette developed a new heated razor. And their old model would have been to get all the way through development and then do a big marketing campaign for their new razor. What Gillette is realizing, which is what most great direct-to-consumer brands now are doing, is to get out to consumers, is that it'd be worthwhile to get out to consumers earlier. So Gillette actually launched their heated razor on Indiegogo. They launched a project actually for their heated razor. And they're doing it in part to get their first customers. But of course, Gillette has a very robust distribution system, at drugstores and all kinds of stores all over the world. What the enterprises are really using Indiegogo for is similar to what Bose, why Bose launched a campaign on Indiegogo, is to connect with consumers early and get their feedback and figure out if the price point works for consumers, to figure out which features are most important to consumers, to get consumers to test that product. That Bose campaign, Bose did something pretty amazing. Bose actually sent an early prototype to all of the backers of that campaign that bought the headphones to get feedback. And they collected that feedback, and then after they got that feedback and they made some modifications to the headphones, they then sent all the backers the actual commercial version
Right, that was
of
pretty
those
sweet.
headphones. Yeah.
Like a big company can sort of afford to do that too. I don't know if every startup can sort of model their campaigns after that, but
Exactly, but for them, it was a great way to connect with customers.
oh, and establish so much goodwill.
Absolutely. And if I'm Bose, or Whirlpool has run 2 campaigns on Indiegogo. I love the Whirlpool example. Whirlpool, known for their washers and dryers, launched a kitchen appliance that was a composting machine on Indiegogo, actually. And they did it primarily so they could connect with early adopters and get feedback on the product. And I asked, when I was in meetings with Whirlpool, I asked them, how would you connect directly with consumers but for Indiegogo? What would you do if you couldn't do it on Indiegogo? If they're selling products through Best Buy doesn't tell them who the customers are. If they're selling,
Right.
For any of the other enterprises that are selling through Amazon or Walmart, they hold that information very close to the vest. So what Whirlpool told me is that before Indiegogo, the primary way that they would find out who their actual customers were was from people sending back those warranty cards.
Oh man, we're not doing it online now. It makes
Exactly.
sense. It's all about data.
It
you know?
is. So the enterprises on Indiegogo, they not only get their first few thousand customers, but those first few thousand customers become their focus group. And the benefit to backers is that they get to have a voice in those products that are created by those great companies.
Nice. I have to ask though. I know with this idea, there's been a bit of a backlash from sort of the true indies, and like, oh wow, this is supposed to be like you're letting these guys in, like this is supposed to be like our place for startups and people just starting out, and how do we stand out when there's these sort of bigger fish swimming in our pool now? I remember, I think this was Kickstarter, but it was, again, years ago that when the big films or stars started asking, like I think there was Veronica Mars and there was Zach Braff had his thing, and I think it was Zach Braff that got the most heat for it. But they're like, hey, this is get out of here, established people. Like this is not your pool. What has been the reaction in Indiegogo to some of this enterprise stuff?
Honestly, we've heard very little from the negative backlash from the entrepreneurs on our platform. And, we've had over 800,000 people that have raised money for different things on Indiegogo, and we've had almost no negative feedback directly. And the main reason is that, the entrepreneurs recognize that these established brands bring a lot of new users to the platform. And while they may come to see that big enterprise campaign from Bose or Whirlpool or General Electric or Lego or some of the other big brands that have used Indiegogo, while they're there, they tend to browse around.
Yeah, I was looking at some stats. There's something like 22% of your users back mark more than one campaign.
Absolutely. And if they back one of these large enterprise campaigns, then they often elect to join our email lists, and they're getting notified regularly of the latest and greatest innovations on Indiegogo. So what those large enterprises do actually is they really help build the community of early adopters on Indiegogo that then get turned on to innovative projects from small and large entrepreneurs alike.
Nice. So what's next for you guys?
So a lot of things. The big things that are coming up for us is continuing our worldwide expansion. We've been thrilled to see the tremendous growth that we've had in China. And we'll continue to explore, how we enable entrepreneurs from all over the world to reach audiences elsewhere in the world. We're also continuing to implement, to form new partnerships to help entrepreneurs be more successful in manufacturing their products and shipping those products. So you'll see over the next year more announcements of partnerships to enable entrepreneurs once they've raised a lot of money to be more successful. You'll also see us rolling out even more services to make the whole crowdfunding experience easier for entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs on Indiegogo are often great at having innovative ideas for products, at developing products. They may not have great experience in running a digital marketing campaign to make that project successful, or in building a large community. That may not be their strength. So you'll see us doing more there. And you'll start to see us in the beginning of next year exploring more and more with guaranteed shipment of products. As we have more established entrepreneurs using Indiegogo, they're less reliant on the funds that they raise in their campaigns to be able to ship their products, and they're able to actually guarantee that product will ship. One of the, for example, Lego launched their first toy aimed at adults on Indiegogo a couple months ago, and of course, Lego
aimed.
What's that?
There's a lot of adults I know that are into Lego.
Well,
I'm saying for a friend.
The reason I say that is that I've learned from experience not to say that Lego is launching their first adult toy on Indiegogo.
Yes. That would be really off-brand for them.
Exactly. And and we're at Indiegogo we're actually in awe of Lego and the way that they inspire innovation and creativity from young people. There's so many entrepreneurs on Indiegogo that have told us about how they started developing things, actually playing with Legos as children. But Lego knows that they're going to ship their product. Gillette knows that they're going to ship their product. Many of our now Indiegogo's having a lot of repeat entrepreneurs on our platform. Mate X, which I mentioned earlier, which was the most successful campaign on Indiegogo, this was their second campaign on Indiegogo. They know how to manufacture an electric bike, and while we didn't do it for this campaign, they're in a position to guarantee that product will ultimately ship. So you'll see more guaranteed shipping as a way to build backer confidence in our platform and ensure that we have a really happy community.
Sounds great. So if you don't mind, I would love to transition into some fun time questions.
Fun time. Okay.
Fun
let's
questions.
Do it.
Okay. So there's a bit of a game.
Uh-oh.
Now we have 5 questions, and 3 are the first 3 are part of a guessing game, and the other 2 are, well, they're all kind of a guessing game.
Uh-oh.
But the first 3 are, you have to guess whether this project was funded or not funded. These are all Indiegogo campaigns.
Oh, really? Okay.
So,
all right.
I've
got a little bit over 800,000 to think through, but
yeah, I know you're going to have to scan real quick.
Okay,
so,
let's do it.
But I'm going to. Okay, so the first one. So
sorry, just one clarifying question. Is it whether the campaign existed or whether it got funded?
Whether it got funded. These are all the first 3
they
are
were all
real
campaigns. And the question is whether they reached their funding goals.
Did they reach their funding goal or not?
Okay.
All right. The first one is the canned witch, a pocket sandwich in a self-heating can.
I'm guessing yes, it reached its funding goal.
It did. You
Yes.
got the first one.
Okay.
It was funded. All right. Second one, bug assault, a miniaturized shotgun effect is generated through this ingenious design for killing flies and other pesky insects using only ordinary table salt. Was that funded or not funded?
Yes, funded.
Oh, wow. They're very confident.
Mm-hmm.
And it was. It was, in fact, funded. So 2 out of 3 so far. And then we got
First of all, isn't this a testament to the Indiegogo platform that these amazingly unique projects could actually get fully funded?
Especially with the amazingly unique names.
Imagine the bug assault people showing up at Andreessen Horowitz and trying to get funding for the bug assault.
We call it bug assault. It's more, it's like the guy that would leave dejected from Shark Tank, I think. Like, they didn't go for it? What? All right, third one. Aliens and UFOs, a small business making gray alien dolls and selling UFO alien-related products. Started by a retired grandmother.
Ooh, did it get funded? Ooh, on that one, I'm going to guess no.
It was not. You are correct. I feel bad for the grandmother.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Okay.
It's okay. She was able to do early product validation. I'm sure she moved on to something new.
You did great. You got 3 out of 3 so far.
Okay.
We're going into advanced stuff now, though.
Oh, boy.
So this next question, I'm going to read 3 campaigns to you.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is fake. The other 2 are real Indiegogo campaigns that were on the site. So you're not choosing funded or not funded. These are just 3 campaigns, which one's fake. All right, first one. A new tooth. A YouTuber raised money for his broken tooth. He broke his front tooth in half one weekend. He said it was gross and that it was nearly impossible to eat sandwiches. He has no dental insurance and it's going to cost him an insane amount of money. So, of course, he turned to Indiegogo. Second one. Or do you want to make a judgment right now on whether that's true?
No, I'd like to hear all 3. One is not true of the 3.
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
All right. Second one. A self-declared lifelong introvert got a notification that it was the birthday of a high school classmate who he hated. He set out to create an app that would help you mute all birthday notifications. And where the app couldn't just mute them for you, it would recommend turning off certain notifications and apps or deleting certain calendars.
Mm-hmm.
So birthday notification muting.
Okay.
And the last one is the audio pill. You swallow this pill and it starts beating at a certain number of beats per minute. It's a techno party in your stomach that you can't escape. The creator says the beating within your abdomen induces a unique feeling of restlessness, amazement, and elation. The battery lasts for only 10 hours, but it can't be switched off after you swallow it.
Wow.
1, 2, 3. So those are 3 campaigns. Which one's the fake?
Which one's fake?
Is it the new tooth, the birthday muting idea, or the audio pill?
I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to guess the birthday muting is the fake one.
And you would be correct. That is the fake campaign.
Wow.
Very confident. Did you know the other 2? Have you ever heard of those? I feel like the audio pill might have gotten around.
I vaguely remember the audio pill. There may have been some Food and Drug Administration concerns related to that one.
I believe that I could see how that could happen.
Yes.
Okay, so you've got 4 out of 5 so far.
Wow.
We're going to the bonus round. This is it. The last question. So this is.
We can't just stop right now. I can't just take my money and end this.
You could bank it. No, we got to go. We got to do this.
All right.
We're on this journey together now.
Okay.
Okay. Which Indiegogo campaign of these 3 that I'm going to mention? Which Indiegogo campaign did I back?
Ooh, that's a great one.
Me. Which one did Pete Paschal, host of MashTalk, back? Was it the Banana Phone, a yellow, banana-shaped, Bluetooth-enabled mobile handset that connects to your smartphone? It's a phone with appeal. Was it the Morpher folding bicycle helmet? It is said to be the world's first fold-flat helmet. Morpher folds and unfolds quickly and simply, so it's perfect for cyclists who want to carry a helmet more easily. Or was it Super Troopers 2? A 2018 sequel to the 2001 film Super Troopers, a cult comedy from the Broken Lizard comedy troupe. It's all about the hijinks of Vermont state troopers. Which campaign did I back? Was it the Banana Phone? Was it the Morpher folding bicycle helmet? Or was it Super Troopers 2, which came out earlier this year?
Pete, I'm gonna go with a testament to you on this one. I'm gonna guess, you look like a fairly fit guy to me. I'm gonna guess that you are somebody that travels to work by bicycle, and you went with a Morpher. Morpher, was it? Foldable bike helmet.
It's the Morpher, and it was the Morpher.
Wow,
Dave, you got 5 out of 5. You nailed it. You aced our test.
This is amazing.
You get.
Where
a
do
no
I claim my
prize.
prizes? Do I? Is that somewhere
It's,
just outside the studio?
You're
here?
gonna have to.
Or do they have to be shipped to me?
Yeah, we're gonna need some help with that shipping. I
Oh,
think you
okay.
guys that you.
All right, so I leave
you
my
have-
address here?
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe we need to get plugged into your.
Okay,
to your
I can do that.
marketplace
I'll
and
leave
all
our
that
address
stuff.
so that all of our whole team can.
Yeah, we're
share
going to need
and
some
all
help
that.
on that. But
Okay.
congratulations. Thanks
Thank you.
again for coming in and answering all our questions, including the silly ones, and letting us know about what's the future's in store for Indiegogo and crowdfunding.
Okay, sounds wonderful, Pete. This was great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.